The air on Xylos Prime tasted like burnt metal and smoke. Dr. Kalen Wren moved through the wreckage of the downed warship, his boots crunching on broken glass and twisted metal. The big battle was over, but the dying wasn't. Screams, human and alien, mixed with the hiss of escaping air and the crackle of fires. Kalen ignored the chaos, his eyes scanning for signs of life, his medical pack heavy on his back. He was just a field medic, patching up wounds in the dirt. He pushed past a collapsed beam, his light cutting through the thick dust. Something glinted ahead, not metal, but a smooth, dark surface like polished stone. He moved closer, heart pounding. Then he saw it. An enormous insectoid form lay half buried under debris. Thick, segmented armor covered its body, but it was shattered in places, cracked like old pottery. Green glowing blood pooled on the scorched floor. Kalen froze. The markings, the size. This was no soldier. This was Virexian royalty. A queen protocol screamed in his head. Do not approach. Neural suppressors required. Extreme danger. Virexian queens were psychic powerhouses, deadly even near death. Their royal guard usually killed anything that got too close. But Kalen saw no guards, only stillness, and the blood was flowing too fast. She was dying. Right now, forget protocol. He was a doctor. His oath didn't care about species or rank. Kalen dropped his pack and knelt in the glowing green pool, ignoring the strange warmth. Up close, the damage was worse. A huge piece of shrapnel was buried deep in her side. Between thick plates of chitin, more cracks spiderwebbed across her chest. Her breathing was shallow, labored, a wet rasping sound. He pulled on thick gloves, grabbed his strongest cutter, and carefully started clearing smaller debris pinning one of her limbs. She didn't react. Was she unconscious? He worked fast, clearing space around the main wound. The shrapnel was jagged metal, big as his forearm. Pulling it out could cause massive bleeding. He needed clamps, sealant foam. He reached for his kit. As his gloved hand brushed near her damaged chest plate, one of her forelimbs snapped up with shocking speed. Kalen flinched, expecting the sharp claws to rip through him. But they didn't. Instead, the razor-tipped limb, gently, almost hesitantly, closed around his wrist. Not an attack, a hold. Her touch was surprisingly light, almost fragile feeling. Despite the hard exoskeleton, her large, multifaceted eyes, previously dull, flickered open. They fixed on him, unblinking, reflecting his own helmet light. There was no anger in that gaze, only pain, and a deep, profound exhaustion. And something else. Focus. She was looking directly at him, not through him. The claws didn't tighten, they just held his wrist firmly, anchoring him there. Kalen stopped breathing for a second. This wasn't in any manual. Was it a threat? A plea? He slowly moved his other hand, showing her the clamp from his kit. Her eyes tracked it, then returned to his face. The grip on his wrist didn't change. Okay, Kalen whispered, more to himself than the alien queen. Okay, just hold on. He carefully, slowly, brought the clamp towards the bleeding wound. She watched him, silent, except for that ragged breath. He clamped a spurting vessel near the shrapnel. She didn't flinch. He sprayed quickseal foam over smaller cracks. Still, she held his wrist, her gaze locked on his. It was unnerving, intense, but also strangely grounding. He was her anchor, and she was holding on. He heard shouts behind him. Backup had finally arrived. Doc, what in the void are you doing? A soldier yelled. Rifle raised towards the queen. Kalen didn't turn, keeping his movements deliberate. Lower your weapon. She's critical. I need a stretcher. Now and signal evac. Priority 1. He looked back at the queen. Her eyes were still on him. Help is coming, he said, though he knew she likely couldn't understand the words. He hoped she understood the intent. Her claws remained around his wrist. The stretcher team arrived, staring in disbelief. Just get her ready, Kalen ordered, his voice tight, carefully. The queen is coming with us. The sterile white lights of the Peregrine Station's medical bay felt harsh after the smoke of Xylos Prime. Queen Zara lay on a specialized biobed, her massive form dwarfing the human equipment. Green blood still seeped slowly from the sealed cracks in her carapace. Dr. Kalen Wren stood beside her, his own wrist still faintly marked where her claws had held him. The station's chief medical officer, Dr. Eris Thorne, looked grim. Wren, step aside. Our Virexian liaison healers are here. They know her biology. 2 Virexian medics approached, taller and thinner than warriors. Their chitin gleamed under the lights. They carried devices humming with soft energy. Kalen moved to let them pass. As the first healer extended a delicate instrument emitting a soft blue light toward Zara's head, the queen reacted violently. A sharp, hissing screech filled the bay. She thrashed, her damaged limbs flailing weakly, knocking the instrument aside. Her multifaceted eyes blazed with panic and pain. The healers backed away, chittering in alarm. See, Kalen said, his voice tight. She won't accept them. On the battlefield, she only tolerated me. Dr. Thorne frowned. Nonsense. She was likely delirious from shock. She needs proper Virexian neuroregenerative therapy. Sedate her. The Virexian healers moved forward again, holding injectors. Zara's hiss turned into a low, dangerous growl. Her claws scraped the bed frame. Kaelin stepped between them and the Queen, hands raised. Wait, please, just let me try. 5 minutes, if she rejects me to, you proceed. But forcing sedation could kill her in this state. Thorn hesitated, then nodded curtly. 5 minutes, Ren, then we do this properly. The Virexian healers retreated, their postures showing disapproval. Kaelin approached the biobed slowly. Zara's frantic movements stilled, her eyes tracking him. Her breathing remained rapid and shallow. Okay, Kaelin murmured, pulling on fresh gloves. Just me. He carefully examined the foam seals he'd applied planet-side. One near her thoracic joint was weeping green fluid. He needed to reinforce it. He prepared a fresh applicator, as he leaned close to the weeping wound. Zara suddenly tensed, a tremor running through her huge frame, a low whine escaped her, a sound of pure distress. Kaelin froze. He saw her eyes squeezed shut. It wasn't physical pain from his touch. He hadn't even touched her yet. He remembered the Virexian healer's blue light device aimed at her head. Understanding dawned. Their healing involved neuroscans, psychic links. Her mind was injured, too, and that touch was agony. Instinctively, Kaelin did what he had done countless times for scared, wounded soldiers. He began to hum, a low, steady, wordless tune, an old earth lullaby his grandmother used to sing. He kept his movements slow and deliberate. As he applied the sealant foam to the leaking joint, Zara flinched slightly at the initial contact, but the terrible whining stopped. Her eyes opened, fixing on his face again. Her rapid breathing gradually slowed, becoming deeper, less labored. She watched him work, utterly still, except for the rise and fall of her chest. The frantic terror was gone, replaced by that unnerving, focused stillness. Dr. Thorne and the Virexian healers watched in stunned silence. Kaelin finished sealing the wound and stepped back. See, he said quietly, it's not the physical healing. It's the method. Your tech hurts her mind. The lead Virexian healer made a series of rapid clicks. The translator drone on its harness spoke flatly. Assessment. The Queen's neurotrauma rejects standard interface. The human's sound disrupts the psychic feedback loop. It provides unexpected neural static. Calming. Thorne rubbed his temples. Fine, Ren, you're on primary care. But you're flying blind. Our knowledge of Virexian internal biology is basic. Kaelin looked at the massive, fragile Queen, who only tolerated his presence. Then I'll learn fast. Sir, she needs help only I can give right now. He turned back to the biobed. Zara's gaze followed him, a silent agreement hanging in the sterile air. The real challenge, Kaelin knew, had only just begun. Days blurred into a demanding rhythm for Kaelin. Sleep became a luxury stolen in short naps beside Zara's biobed. His eyes burned from studying endless Virexian anatomical scans projected onto a small screen. Diagrams of chitin layers, maps of biofiber muscle groups, and the complex network of glowing internal fluids filled his waking hours. He learned the hard way which sealants worked best on her unique biology, which sutures held the cracked carapace. Thorne watched, offering dry advice but mostly leaving Kaelin to his intense study. Zara remained still, a silent mountain of wounded royalty. Yet, subtle changes were happening. The deep cracks in her dark carapace slowly knit together under Kaelin's careful ministrations. The terrifyingly shallow rasp of her breathing deepened, becoming steadier. Her multifaceted eyes followed him constantly, a quiet, watchful presence. The humming became a necessary ritual. Before each delicate procedure, cleaning a wound, adjusting a support brace, applying fresh sealant, Kaelin would begin the low, steady tune. It was a signal, a bridge. Zara would visibly relax, the tension easing from her massive frame, her gaze softening from intense scrutiny to something resembling trust. One afternoon, Kaelin prepared to treat a deep laceration near her primary limb joint. Bioscans showed the underlying biofibers needed regenerative gel to mend properly. He retrieved a fresh container of the specialized shimmering blue gel synthesized by the station's labs under Virexian guidance. He unscrewed the lid, dipped a sterile applicator, and began his familiar low hum as he leaned close. He applied the gel carefully. Zara remained calm. But then, a faint tremor ran through the limb. Kaelin paused, frowning. He watched the gel. Instead of being absorbed into the biofibers as usual, it seemed to bubble slightly on the surface. A very faint, sharp smell reached his nostrils, masked mostly by the gel's usual sterile odor. Something was wrong. Alarms didn't blare. The biobed monitors showed stable vitals. But Kaelin trusted his senses, honed in chaotic field hospitals. He pulled the applicator back. He looked at the gel container, then at Zara. Her eyes were fixed on him, alert. He dipped a clean fingertip into the gel, still in the container. The faint, sharp scent was stronger now, almost like bitter almonds, beneath the sterility. A cold dread washed over him. He knew this smell. A human neurotoxin, highly diluted, designed to mimic natural decay. Sabotage. Panic surged, but training took over. He needed to confirm. Fast. Ignoring protocol, he did what desperate medics sometimes did in resource-starved zones. He touched the tiny smear of gel on his finger to the tip of his tongue. Just a trace. Instantly, a wave of numbness spread across his tongue, a metallic temps flooding his mouth. Confirmed. Neurotoxin. He spat violently, grabbing a cleansing wipe. Thorn, he yelled, his voice raw. Contamination. The regen gel, neurotoxin. He grabbed saline flush, turning back to Zara's wound. The gel was already on her biofibers. He had to get it off. Now he poured saline liberally over the treated area, scrubbing frantically but carefully with sterile gauze. Zara jerked slightly at the sudden, rough action, a low hiss escaping her. Her eyes locked onto his, wide with confusion and alarm. He kept flushing, kept wiping, his own heart hammering. Against his ribs, the numbness was spreading slightly to his lips. Thorn and a team rushed in. "Wow," Thorn demanded. Seeing Kellen's frantic efforts, Kellen didn't stop scrubbing. Tasted it. Bitter almond trace. Confirmed neuro effect. Get analysis. On that batch. Now, she's got it on an open wound. He felt lightheaded, the room tilting slightly. He kept his hands moving on Zara's limb. Her gaze never left his face. He saw the reflection of his own fear in her countless eyes. Then, a wave of dizziness hit him hard. His knees buckled. The world went gray at the edges as he slumped against the biobed, the sterile gauze slipping from his fingers. The last thing he registered was the deep, vibrating hum coming from Zara herself, resonating through the metal frame he leaned against, a sound of pure alien alarm. The gray haze slowly lifted. Kalen blinked, his mouth dry, his tongue still thick with numbness. He lay on a standard medbay cot, an IV drip feeding fluids into his arm. Dr. Thorne stood nearby, face grim. "You're an idiot, Ren," Thorne stated, flatly. "Tasting unknown contaminants, you could have died. The toxin was targeted for Varxian neurology, but still potent enough to floor you. A minute more exposure on Zara's wound would have paralyzed her respiratory system." Kalen struggled to sit up, his limbs weak. "Zara," he rasped. Thorne gestured across the bay. The massive queen lay on her biobed, her huge, multifaceted eyes fixed intently on Kalen. A deep, almost subsonic vibration hummed from her, making the cot Kalen lay on tremble faintly. "She hasn't stopped that since you collapsed," Thorne said, a note of awe in his voice. "Our instruments show it's a focused sonic resonance. We think she was trying to counteract the toxin in your system, stimulate your nervous system. It worked." Kalen stared at Zara. She had protected him. The vibration softened as their eyes met. Thorne continued. "Analysis confirmed the sabotage. The toxin was introduced into the gel synthesis line. Security is investigating, but the trail is cold. Likely Varexian traditionalists who see her reliance on you as a profound dishonor. They want her dead rather than tainted by human touch." Anger surged through Kalen, cutting through the weakness. "We need to move her somewhere more secure." Thorne shook his head. "She refuses, violently. She won't leave this bay, especially not without you." Kalen swung his legs off the cot, ignoring Thorne's protest. He felt shaky but determined. He walked slowly toward Zara's biobed. The deep hum grew slightly louder, warmer, as he approached. It wasn't a threat. It felt like, concern. He reached her side. Her eyes followed his every movement. "Thank you," he whispered, placing a hand gently on the cool, unbroken section of her carapace near her massive head. He began the low, familiar hum of his lullaby. Zara's sonic vibration shifted, subtly harmonizing with his tune. A strange sense of calm washed over him, easing his lingering dizziness. He carefully examined the limb he'd scrubbed clean. The biofibers were inflamed but showed no signs of the toxin's paralysis. His frantic cleaning had worked. Later, as Kalen prepared a safe batch of nutrient fluids, a wave of intense images flooded his mind, not his own. He saw dark corridors on the station, a Varxian shape, not a healer, bulkier with warrior markings, tampering with a supply line control panel. The image was sharp, clear, filled with a sense of cold purpose. It vanished as quickly as it came. Kalen gasped, dropping a vial. It shattered on the floor. He looked at Zara. Her eyes held his, intense, expectant. "Did you show me that?" he breathed. The queen remained still, but the focused intelligence in her gaze was answer enough. She had shared her memory, the psychic impression of her would-be killer, imprinted during the attack on her hive mind. Kalen called security immediately, describing the warrior's distinct chitin pattern. They found the saboteur attempting to flee the station, hiding in a maintenance shaft. Standing guard by Zara's bed as security hauled the traitor away, Kalen felt the weight of their strange bond deepen. It wasn't just touch or sound anymore. She had reached into his mind, sharing crucial knowledge, trusting him with her very thoughts. He resumed his humming, the sound steadying them both. The threat wasn't over. He knew. Traditionalists would try again, but Kalen wouldn't leave her side. She had saved him. He would protect her, not just as a doctor, but as the only bridge she had in a galaxy suddenly full of enemies. The queen's silent vigil over her human healer continued. a fortress, built on mutual vulnerability and defiance. The pressure mounted like a physical weight. Commander Vance stood rigid in the medbay doorway, her eyes fixed on Kaelin, ignoring the massive queen nearby. The ceasefire talks hinge on her, Vance stated, voice low and urgent. Her hive fleets are still scattered, confused. We need her influence. Wren, we need her to rally them, to stop the rogue attacks. Can you ask her? Can she, reach them? Kaelin felt Zara's gaze heavy on him. He'd seen flashes in her eyes, felt echoes in his own mind, distant cries, confusion, the psychic scream of a shattered hive mind. She's healing, Commander, Kaelin replied, adjusting a nutrient drip line into Zara's feeding port. Forcing this could break her again. It has to be her choice. Vance's jaw tightened. Choice. Millions of lives hang in the balance. Find out what she knows. Doctor, that's an order. She left, the door ceiling shut behind her. Kaelin sighed, leaning against the biobed. He felt trapped. Exploiting Zara's trust felt like a betrayal worse than any toxin. He began his low hum, the familiar tune filling the tense silence. Zara's deep, resonant vibration answered. Softer now, a steady counterpoint. He looked into her multifaceted eyes. They need you, he said simply, knowing she likely grasped the meaning through his tone, his tension. Your people, they're lost, hurting others. Can you help them? Zara remained silent, still, but Kaelin felt it, a surge of profound sorrow, an image of countless fractured connections, sharp and painful. Then, slowly, subtly, a change began. Her deep hum deepened further, becoming more complex, layered. It resonated through the deck plating, vibrating in Kaelin's bones. He saw her eyes lose focus, gazing at something vast and unseen. The biomonitors showed a spike in her neural activity, but not the panicked spikes of pain. A focused, powerful surge. Outside the peregrine, the scattered Vyerxian fleet fragments, previously drifting or engaging in isolated skirmishes, suddenly changed course. Ships halted, mid-maneuver, weapons powered down. A shared psychic signal, faint but unmistakably royal, pulsed through the void. Not a command, but a call. A call for calm, for unity, for home. The chaotic attacks ceased as suddenly as they began. Vance's voice crackled over the medbay cum. Stunned. Wren, it's working. The fleets are disengaging. How? Kaelin watched Zara. The effort was immense. Sweat beaded on his own forehead, just feeling the psychic effort radiating from her. Her vibration was a constant, powerful thrum. He kept humming, a steady anchor in the psychic storm she was weaving. Suddenly, the medbay door control panel sparked violently. The door didn't open. It was cut open, molten metal, dripping. A Vyrexian warrior, larger than the healers, chitin-scarred and painted with jagged, traditionalist markings, burst through. Its blaster was raised, aimed directly at Zara's head. It shrieked, a sound of pure, fanatical hatred. Taint ends now. Kaelin reacted without thought. He didn't reach for a weapon. There wasn't one. He didn't shout, he simply stepped. One solid step placed him squarely between the warrior's blaster and the queen. He spread his arms slightly, making himself a shield. His humming stopped. He met the warrior's furious, multifaceted eyes. He stood completely still, protecting his patient. The warrior froze, blaster unwavering but finger tense on the trigger. Its head tilted, confusion rippling across its rigid features. This soft, exposed human prey species wasn't attacking. It wasn't cowering. It was standing there, deliberately blocking the shot, sacrificing itself for the queen. The concept was alien, illogical, utterly baffling. The moment stretched, thick with tension. Kaelin didn't flinch. He heard Zara's vibration shift behind him. No longer a calming hum, but a deep, threatening resonance that made the air vibrate. Station security alarms finally boots pounded in the corridor. The warrior hesitated a fraction too long, its confusion turning to frustrated rage. It fired, not at Kaelin, but wildly at the ceiling, showering sparks, before whirling and fleeing back through the melted doorway, vanishing into the station's depths just as security forces arrived. Kaelin sagged, adrenaline crashing. He turned back to Zara. She was looking at him, her vibration softening back into the familiar hum. Her huge claw rose slowly, trembling slightly, and touched the center of his chest, right over his racing heart. It wasn't a grip like on the battlefield. It was gentle, a touch of profound understanding. Through the fading panic, Kaelin felt it again, not images this time, but raw emotion. Not just her own gratitude, but a deep, resonating echo of countless human experiences. Sacrifice, loyalty, the fierce, irrational urge to protect. She hadn't just seen his history, she'd felt it, and in her alien eyes, Kaelin saw awe. He placed his hand over her claw where it rested on his chest. Her vibration deepened into a strange, soft sound, almost like a sigh. The grand chamber of the Peregrine Station hummed with tense silence. Delegates from a dozen species stood rigidly behind polished rails. Commander Vance represented humanity. Across the wide space stood the newly arrived Vyerxian high commanders. their chitin gleaming, their expressions unreadable. The ceasefire agreement hovered on a glowing screen, unsigned. The war wasn't truly over until the Queen endorsed it. All eyes turned to the main entrance. The doors slid open. Kalen Wren entered first, walking slowly, his medic's tunic crisp but his face showing the strain of recent weeks. Behind him, supported by an anti-grav sled humming softly, came Queen Zara. Her massive form moved with deliberate slowness, the deep cracks in her carapace visible but sealed. Her multifaceted eyes swept the room, radiating ancient power and profound weariness. A ripple of shock went through the assembly. She was alive, and she was here, escorted only by the human medic. Zara halted her sled beside Vance the High. Commanders bowed deeply. The silence deepened. Then Zara spoke. Her voice, amplified by the translation drone, was a deep, resonant vibration felt as much as heard. "You see fragility in flesh," she began, her gaze encompassing both human and Virexian leaders. "You see weakness in wounds. But you look through the wrong eyes." She shifted slightly, her massive head turning towards Kalen. "This human sought only pain, and sought only to end it." She paused, the weight of her words settling. He offered no weapons, no demands, only ... sound, touch, care. Her drone translated the words, but the emotion beneath them resonated in the chamber. In his unshielded mind, as he healed my broken body, I saw your history, I saw your wars, your plagues, your endless struggles against darkness. Her gaze swept back to the assembled leaders. But I also saw your relentless spark, your refusal to let suffering be the end. You heal what you fear, you mend what breaks. That her voice resonated powerfully, is true strength. That is power the harvesters never understood. A profound stillness followed. Vance stood straighter. The Virexian high commanders exchanged glances filled with dawning comprehension. This war, Zara continued, was born of fear. Fear of the different. Fear of the scarred. It ends now. She gestured towards the glowing agreement. One of her massive claws touched a control on her sled. A stylized glyph representing her royal authority appeared beside the human signature on the treaty display. Signed, but Zara wasn't finished. "The Children of Soul," she declared, the name no longer patronizing, but resonant with new meaning, "have shown the Hive a different path. A path not of conquest, but of connection, of mercy." She turned fully to Vance. "We gift humanity the dormant worlds of the Epsilon Theta system, worlds untouched by the harvesters. Colonize them, grow, let your strength bloom." Finally her gaze returned to Kalen, standing quietly beside her sled. The fierce intelligence in her eyes softened. "My healer remains," she stated, the words, simple but carry an immense weight. "Not as property, not as a trophy, as an ambassador, as Hivekin." The chamber erupted, not in cheers, but in a low murmur of awe and relief. Delegates began talking, barriers dissolving. Vance nodded solemnly to Kalen, respect shining in her eyes. Kalen felt overwhelmed, a lump in his throat. He looked up at Zara. She tilted her massive head slightly, a gesture he now understood. He stepped closer, placing a hand gently on the cool, healed section of her carapace near her forelimb. Almost instinctively, he began the low, steady hum of the old lullaby. A deep, harmonious vibration answered him, resonating from within Zara, a counterpoint to his simple human sound. It wasn't just a tune anymore. It was a bridge. It was a promise. It was the quiet, unyielding strength of mercy, echoing through the stars, forever changing the galaxy. Kalen kept humming, his hand resting on the Queen, who had seen humanity's soul, and found it worthy. Together, healer and healed, they watched the new piece take its first, fragile breath.